Hello, my dear friends. You may have noticed that every single drasha that I've given since October 7th for the past 4 months has to do with the situation in Eretz Yisrael, the war and the hostages. And maybe there's somebody out there, I doubt it, I don't think anybody would think this way, but just in case, I want to talk about it. Maybe somebody is thinking, there's an expression in Yiddish, genug schon, which means it's enough. How much do you have to talk about the war and and all these things, people dying? It's depressing. It's genug schon. So that way of thinking is terrible. I'm confident nobody thinks that way. It's terrible because if chas v'shalom, a person's child is sick and the person's in the hospital, the person thinks about that day and night. They don't stop thinking about it for a moment. They don't say, I don't want to think about it anymore. It's too depressing. It's your child. If a person thinks that it's too depressing to think about what's going on in Eretz Yisrael, that means it's because we're disconnected, that we don't feel a kesher to our Chaynu B'nai Yisrael, to our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. And that would be terrible if we're so disconnected that we could justify in our minds not thinking about the pain that they're enduring and the suffering and the turmoil and the trauma. That would mean that we're not connected to what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. I saw Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, my Rebbe, the Mir Rosh Yeshiva. He admonished. He gave. It's recorded in his sefer the talks that he gave during the Yom Kippur War in 1973, and he admonished American yeshiva brachim who were contemplating going home. The war broke out on Yom Kippur. They wanted to go home for Yontif. Rav Chaim said, you're not allowed to go home because you can't feel the pain of the people in Eretz Yisrael from a distance. It's too remote. It's too far away. You have to stay, even though, again, I know a lot of parents were worried probably that it's dangerous to be in Eretz Yisrael. There's a war going on. He said, you're not allowed to leave because you have to be able to daven with passion for our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, for the tzahal, for the members of the army. And you can't do that from a distance. Okay, so we're in Chutz La'aretz, we're in the diaspora, we're stuck, but we have to feel connected as much as we can. If we're able to go to Eretz Yisrael, do it. I'm going together with a mission. In 2 weeks, we're going. 40 people from Edison Highland Park. We're going to Eretz Yisrael. There's already been a few missions from our community. If you have an opportunity to go to Eretz Yisrael, whether it's by yourself and our mission, do it because you need. First, it provides tremendous chizuk for our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. But also, we need to be upfront. We need to be there. We have to feel the unbelievable trauma that's being experienced in Eretz Yisrael. You can't feel it here in Chutz La'aretz. We have to do the best we can. That we should feel a part of it. Read every day. Read the news reports. There's always pictures and images of soldiers, Rachmana litzlan, who lose their lives. Look at the pictures. Think about them. I mentioned last week, pick one soldier to think about. Read the Hespedim that the family delivers. But we have to stay focused on what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. So I was thinking, where's the hashkafically, where's the source? Everything in Torah has to have a makor, has to have a source. Where's the source for this that we have to stay connected? So one source might be that in Pirkei Avos it says that one of the 48 ways that you acquire Torah is by being noseh b'olam chavero. It's carrying a burden with your friend. If somebody has a problem, carry the burden with them. Let them know. I know how you feel, and let them talk to them about it. Let them talk to you. It's easier for a person to handle a crisis when they know other people care. So you'll say that this is the same thing. It's noseh b'olam chavero. But you could easily argue that noseh b'olam chavero is only when the person knows that you're there. If the person is with you, then you're providing emotional support, even if you don't help the person solve the problem. But emotional support is also worth $1 million. So if you're with the person, then you provide emotional support. But who said, if we're here in America, who said that we have to walk around all day long thinking as much as we can about what's going on, the crisis in Eretz Yisrael? So the Rivaran Kotler Zatzal, I looked in was looking to find somebody that says this explicitly. I mean, I thought it was a Davar Pasha that it's not true that it's only if you make a difference. But I saw Rivaran Kotler speaks about it directly. He says that this idea that you have to carry a burden with somebody else who's in pain is, even if you're doing so, has absolutely no impact on the other person. It makes zero difference to that person. Still, there's a mitzvah to be nosei ba'od im chavero. And he quotes as a source the Gemara in Tainus. The Gemara says that a person is not allowed to be parish min hatzibur. He's not allowed to separate himself from the community. And the Gemara says that if a person, when there's a crisis, if a person will see, Gemara quotes a pasuk. The pasuk says, "Sasun v'simcha." The people are happy and partying. They're going to go slaughter cattle. They're going to eat and drink and they're going to party. And they say tomorrow we're going to die, so we have to make sure to have a good time now. So the Gemara says that if a person does that, the Gemara, it's a long pasuk. The Gemara says people that do that, you will not be forgiven until the person passes. You're not allowed to separate yourself from the tzibur. And the Gemara brings proof from Moshe Rabbeinu that you have to feel the tsar of the tzibur. And this is what Rav Aaron Kotler quotes. The Gemara in Parashas B'Shalach, Moshe Rabbeinu was leading the fight against Amalek. So the Gemara says that when Moshe the Chumash says when Moshe lifted his hands, v'gavar Yisrael, kasher yoram Moshe yado, then the Jewish people were victorious. The Gemara says Yidei Moshe kvedim, was Moshe's arms to do that for a long time, but his hands were heavy. So the Gemara says that Aaron and Hur supported Moshe's hands, and Moshe sat there. What's the language of the pasuk? Vayichu Evan, they see me tachta. They took a stone and they put it from on the ground for Moshe to sit on. So the Gemara says, why did they have to put a stone? Moshe, he's the leading Jewish people. They couldn't put a cushion for Moshe. They had to put a stone. He was an older person. He was He was at least in his mid-80s. Why couldn't they put a cushion for Moshe Rabbeinu? So the Gemara says that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to sit on a cushion. If the Jewish people are suffering, I have to suffer with them. So Rav Aaron Kotler says, you see that there's to the extent possible, a person has to feel the tsar. And even though Moshe's sitting on a stone, it had zero impact. He didn't provide emotional support sitting on a stone. It didn't make any difference whether he was sitting on a stone or not sitting on a stone for the people. The people that were fighting in battle, they didn't even know that Moshe was sitting on a stone. But Moshe, for his own part, even though it did not provide support for others, but Moshe felt they're in tsar, I have to sit on its own. It reminds me of the Chofetz Chaim during World War I. Never slept in a bed. He said, "How can I sleep in a bed? My brothers and sisters, they're in the trenches. They're fighting in the battles. They're not in sleeping beds." For the entire period of World War I, he never slept in a bed. Rav Aaron Kotler's Rebbetzin during World War II, she was in America. She came before the war. She never drank coffee with sugar because she said the same thing. She needed to feel some way deprivation because of what was taking place in Europe. So even if, and that's what Rav Aaron says, that even if there's no change, it doesn't have any impact, still there's a mitzvah to feel the pain of the tzibur. Based on this Gemara in Titus that I just read to you, that a person has to feel, is not allowed to, because if you do so, you're being parish min tzibur, you're separating yourself from the community. So what's the value of that? Rav Aaron asked himself, what's the value of feeling pain? Of sitting on a rock or feeling the pain. What does that accomplish? Why should there be a mitzvah to feel the pain? So Rav Aaron says it's because in that way a person emulates the Ribbon Shalom. Because the Ribbon Shalom was the same way. The Ribbon Shalom always feels the pain of people. The Gemara says in the Chagiga, the Gemara said when a person is suffering, so the Ribbon Shalom says, Kalani Baroshi, Kalani Bazoi, woe to me that because of my head or my shoulder that's in pain. When Moshe Rabbeinu saw the burning bush, so the Rashi says in Chumash, the burning bush was a thorn bush. So Rashi says because the Rebbe said, "Ima anochi b'tzara," I need to feel the pain of the Jewish people. In this week's Parsha, the Chumash says that when Moshe went up to Har Sinai, they saw that Hashem had under his foot, Tachas Rago Kalivnas Hasapir, there was a sapphire brick. So the Gemara said, Rashi quotes, why do you have a sapphire brick? Because that he had that brick under his foot, metaphorically. The Kadosh Baruch doesn't have figuratively, he doesn't have feet, but figuratively, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a brick constantly throughout the Shiva. It was 210 years that they were slaves, so he could feel their pain. The Medrash says that brick was a woman who was pregnant, and she was working in the fields, and because of the trauma of working so hard, she miscarried, and the fetus fell into the mortar and became part of the brick. So Gabriel, the Malach, took that brick and he brought it to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And the Rebbeinu Shalom said, I want to hold that brick in front of me the whole time that the Jews are enduring slavery. So Rav Aaron says you see that even though for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his having a brick in front of him, it didn't change anything for the people, but the Rebbeinu Shalom, because of the midah of chesed and rachmanis and compassion, God wanted to feel the pain of the people. So a human being should be the same way. Emulate the Rebbeinu Shalom. We have to feel the pain. It's not enough intellectually, and it's not enough to say Tehillim twice a day, in the morning and the evening. Person has to walk around identifying, feeling the pain of the people in Eretz Yisrael. The Chumash says in Parashas, I guess it's in Parashas Vayera, that when Hagar gave birth to Yishmael, so Yishmael was threatening Yitzchak, so the Rebbeinu Shalom told Avram, send Yishmael away with Hagar. So they left Avram's house and they went into the midbar, into the desert, and they took a flask of water, and the water was finished, and the Yishmael was about to die. So the Chumash says that Hagar took Yishmael and she threw him under a bush, and she said, Al era b'mos hayeled. She didn't want to be there. She didn't want to be with him she didn't want to hold him while he was dying. It was too painful. Al era b'mos hayeled. So Risham Shulchan Hirsch says, what Jewish mother would ever think of doing such a thing? Chas v'shalom. During the Holocaust, people were their dear ones, their children, parents they held on to their children. Nobody ever said, Al Bimos Hayal. That's not that a Jewish heart cannot tolerate such a way of thinking. So a Jew always holds on to the pain, always identifies with the tzibur, and that's in these very trying times. That's what we have to do. I think that in addition to by feeling the pain of the tzibur, so in addition to the fact that we are emulating the Rebbeinu Shalom, there's a mitzvah to emulate the midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the mitzvah of the Devaktabo, Hadbik Midosov, that we're supposed to emulate the midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels the pain of man. We have to feel the pain also, even be nice to know, even when it doesn't make a practical difference. But I think there's another reason as well, and that is when the Rebbeinu Shalom sees that Klal Yisrael, even the ones that are not in the crisis, but they're also in enormous pain. So that motivates the Rebbeinu Shalom to have achmanas on Klal Yisrael. It's like an alternative form of tefillah. And if all of Klal Yisrael in the diaspora is united to feel the horrible pain that you think about the hostage situation, it's mind-boggling. Little children, older people, middle, whatever, everybody. 4 months they found now the cages where Hamas was holding them. The brutality is just beyond comprehension. And you can't even imagine the suffering of the people, and they have no idea where they are and what the future holds in store for them. So we have to hold on to that. We have to identify with that pain. So, but if all of Klal Yisrael will be united in feeling the enormous pain, then that will motivate the Rebbeinu Shalom, together with our tefillos, that the Rebbeinu Shalom have Rachmanis and Klal Yisrael, and Emir Tzashem, we should bring this terrible situation to a conclusion, to end. Hamas should be eradicated. The Shvuyim should be freed. the Chayolim should be protected, and in Mirz Hashem, then we'll be able to celebrate the Yeshua and the Nechama for Klal Yisrael b'mheirav yameinu. Thank you.